Hello everyone, my name is Alckemy and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be learning how to make this sound. Now this is inspired by Skrillex. This is the very first video that I have off of this new series that I'm starting, which is called How to Bite. I really wanted to make a point about this because I'm not trying to show you how to make sounds exactly like somebody, rather give you an interpretation about how you can go about making similar sounds and what characteristics go into the design itself. Now, I'm not Skrillex, you're not Skrillex, but if we can both accept that, then there's some sound design to be learned. With that out of the way, if you like the content, tell me in the comments, let me know if you like this kind of series of how to do artists and stuff, and please don't flame me for not sounding exactly like the original artist. Let's go ahead and figure out how to make this sound. So the premise of this is a lot more simple than it looks. The combination of filtering creatively and distortion is what helps give just about any sound a vocal tonality to it. I am going to go through the patch one by one, but if you're already kind of acquainted with sound design, the big thing that I want you to pay attention to with this is noticing the filter movement around the low mids along the envelope that creates this kind of high resonant points and low notches. This right here is kind of the characteristic of the main sound. However, we're going to go through one by one in case if you're brand new to sound design. And don't worry about copying the patch exactly, just take it for what you will. So the first thing that we're going to do is kind of just use a basic waveform. And after I turn all this other stuff off, it will be just a saw wave, as you can see here. Typically within like monster sounds, I go for a respace at first just because it has a lot of cutting and it sounds really good whenever you start putting notches and stuff through it. So we have this over here, which is an LFO, and it is mapped to the pitch. So in combination with the sync over here, you get this kind of like envelope. The thing about this is that I only have a couple of envelopes here, and for the most part everything is being controlled through the same deal, and that's because I want the envelope to move all of the same parameters at once. You know, if you've got a filter with distortion or you've got pitch movement, then if you can align the filter movement with that envelope, then everything is going to sound like it's working together. So moving on, we have a little bit of noise over here, and then we have a sine wave to kind of fortify the low end, because if you listen to this, it's going to kind of like get lost. Now that sounds a lot better with the low end. We're going to add some distortion. It's just pretty much the basic thing. If you add a little bit of bias over here, you can see that the slope is being more geared towards the low end, and that's going to help give it a little bit more beef on the low end. And then we have a notch filter that is being both moved with the resonance and the cutoff. And then we have another filter that is a band boost that's going to help bring those mids back that we've lost with more vocal stuff. So you can hear the boof. And once you kind of hear those kinds of things, we want to start thinking about how we can use that to create more of a humanistic sound, or we want to bring out that sound even more. So that's why we're going to lean for another distortion. There's a lot of different ways you can do that. You can do it with compression as well, but I think that by saturating things, it has a bit of a cleaner sound. And now it just sounds like a fart. Don't worry about this one. Now, the key characteristic to this, as far as like the tonality of it, is using actually modern talking. You can actually get this for free as a kind of like serum wavetable off the internet. Just type in massive presets. But back in 2013, when Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites was a thing, everybody was using massive. So naturally, people were doing FM synthesis both with FM8, but also with the modern talking deals. So here you go. With a lot of distortion and filtering, you obviously have a big sound, but this is good because we have a lot to cut through. And once we kind of have all that stuff, then we can start thinking about how we can do more creative filtering with that tone to make it even more so. With the distortion here, it's again just kind of beefing everything up. It's always a good plan to like distort, filter when you're doing complicated sounds like this. So now we're going to get into the actual kind of like basis of like how to start shaping the vocalness out of this. If you have Vital, which is free, they actually have Vowel Filters, and you can actually like kind of skip all these steps, but I tend to like to make them on my own. So what we did is grab the same LFO, and you're going to see here that the gain is being either boosted or reduced around the low mids. Same thing with this one over here as we turn this one on. You can see that we're kind of creating these kind of woo, as if a mouth were to shape those sounds on its own right. There's also a little bit of movement over here as well that's kind of shifting this from left to right. And again, this is actually something that Skrillex showed on one of his videos a long time ago, and this is kind of like the way to kind of start getting into that stuff. Once we have that, we want to start thinking about our mids and highs. So what I did was I added a phaser and flanger on the mid band and then a little bit of bit crushing on the top end. Now, the bit crushing that I added is not giving the same characteristic as the bass in Scary Monsters and Nice Sprites. However, it does give it a little bit of bite off the top end, provided that you don't have 100% mix. You kind of just want to give it just a little bit of crunch. And that of course makes it nice and wide with the low end being left in mono. Finally, we're going to finish up with just some more filtering. So as you can see here, the low pass filter is kind of helping close the phrase, I think is the best way to describe that. So if you listen, you kind of get the rest of that there. And then this is just some boosting of the high band with some dynamics. I stopped doing the OTT deal because you remove too many of the mids, but you can achieve a very similar result just by taking dynamics and pushing the high end up. With that, you can add a limiter at the end, and there's your sound. Now, I know that I didn't really talk so much about what's going on with the envelopes down here, but they're not really that important. What you want to try to do is just kind of focus on moving everything together. And even for this, with the filter movement, which is mapped to the low pass filter, it's kind of just being mindful about shaping specific points at specific times. And I know that's pretty general, but it's kind of difficult to tell you without you actually practicing the context of it. So don't be like overwhelmed to thinking that you have to do all of these crazy effects in order to like necessarily achieve the same kind of sound. I really just wanted to kind of fortify the idea about how to go about filtering and distorting in order to create the movement within the bass. From that point, the differences between what makes it sound like a growl or what makes it sound like a neuro type bass or something is kind of just like the FM that you use or the source. But hopefully that was something that will give you enough to play with. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you guys sitting through this video. I am not having the patch available just now. I'm working on building another preset pack that is based off artists. But if you guys have any questions, then feel free to reach out. And please remember to like and subscribe. And again, let me know if you guys like this series, as I intend on doing more videos. Thanks everybody. I'll see you in the next one.